You are tuned in to that PRAYzy station, PRAYZ.FM, where we get our praise on. 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Good evening, everybody. Can you guys hear me loud and clear? I thought I would do something a little different. I didn't have time to test it out, so my producer gonna get me, but I did it anyway. So I wish y'all could see her. I wish if y'all could only see what I'm seeing, she gonna get me. But I'm trying to step up my game just a little bit. That's because, I got a new condenser mic, and I had to get back to my old life and what I used to do, my voiceovers and whatnot. Those who've been around for a minute, y'all knew the old Drea. So the voice is coming back. So I had to put a little something together, trying to take it live. So I bought me a new mic. I got some new, Jeanette, no, she remember when that's right, Jeanette, we're gonna have to do a little something, I'm making it happen here at the Momentum Shift. I am so excited. Y'all show up when Doc D on here. I'm gonna have to have Doc D. Doc D gonna start charging me a fee though. Y'all be getting free therapy. We get it all. I'm trying to get Kimberlin BLPC back on. I want to do a little something with the therapist. Have a powwow. So we have a little tag team thing going on. I'm learning from them. They the best, y'all. I'm telling you, they got it going on. I want to say shout out to Yvette, shout out to Jeanette and Sonia, Tamara Chase, all the way from New York. I think she lives in Long Island. I'm not sure if that's where she lives, but I know she's in New York. Let's see, y'all. Come on in. Keep sharing. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Shalonda. I had to take a little cue from the professional musician, Nick. So I had to bring my game up just a little bit. So I got me. I'm gonna show y'all what I got here. I'm gonna let y'all see. I had to give me a little mic. I used to have it set up in my office at the church, so I decided to bring it on back. Hi, Sarah, Pastor Lisa Seymour, all the way from Illinois. I tell you, God is doing some great things here at PRAYZ.FM Radio, where Dr. Lady Rain is making it rain in the Valley of the Sun, y'all. It's me coming up onto some heat. Lord Jesus, for those of you all who know the power of prayer, I'm just going to ask that y'all pray special ones for your girl right here, because I hate summertime in the AZ. I hate summertime everywhere, except, if you're over in Europe somewhere, it's nice in the summertime. When I lived in England, their idea of summer was, my mom came out to visit summer, August. Let's see, I think she was there. She was there actually during the time when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, which was not fun to be in another country. Yes, Tamara. Hi, Lynette just popped on as well. Tamara, I met Tamara on my classmate's show. He pastors, I think it's called Glen. Oh, Tamara, put the name of your church in the chat. Reverend Roger Williams and I met in the 4th grade in elementary school, and we run into each other every now and then. And he didn't know one of my real good friends that I went to school with through 6th through 12th grade. We joined the military. In fact, he and I was at MEPS at the same time. I was going to try to get in the military, and he was actually leaving out to go to boot camp. So we saw each other there. What are the odds? In big old New Orleans, Louisiana. I run into him at MEPS. I hadn't seen him in a while. And for those people who don't know what MEPS is, that is the gateway into the United States military. Doesn't matter what branch, you go through MEPS. But anyway, ran into him there. And the awesome part about all of this too is we went overseas, came back, come home one week to visit family. Found out he married one of my really closest friends from middle school all the way through. We graduated from college together, used to hang out together all the time. He married her. That is crazy. I mean, like, what are the odds that he meets and marries a friend of mine? Well, I was First Baptist Church of Glen Cove. I knew I had something with the Glen Cove, but I didn't have it right. In Long Island, New York. Small world, but look at the connections God is making. Because I was on his show, he had me come on, March being Women's History Month, he had me come on the show. And that's how I met one of his awesome church members who is now following the momentum shift. See, this is how God does it. I've got this wonderful woman of God on here that she's making boss moves every week. I can't even keep track of what Dr. P is doing. Y'all, I'm gonna make y'all laugh. I've known her name all this time. Now I met her on Kim's show. She'd been on this show 2-3 times. I had her last names all mixed up. I don't even know what was wrong with me last night. I done renamed her. I done gave her a whole new name. I'm sure her husband would not be thrilled that I had it on here the opposite way. But she was on, a month ago? Was it even a month ago?
A month ago.
I think we were talking, I don't even remember what we were talking about, but I remember saying, I got to have you come back on because she's got, I think, you got your business top, your is that your business?
Sure.
Yeah, your business logo, shirt. So she's making things happen in Valdosta, Georgia. And yes. And so I'm so excited to have Doc D on. I'm going to say this, because I got to pause for the cause, y'all. Dr. Rain, is the voting over? I can't remember. And of course, I don't have my glasses on. I can't see. We going to win that Stella Award. It's the voting is over. Huh? We got round 2. So for all y'all who missed round 1, we don't know yet, but we're going to get round 2 and we will be at the Stellar again in July because I believe in professing things prophetically and watching them manifest. I didn't ever think I would be at the Stellars last year, but there I was. So we need to get back to those Stellars. We got to get there. So you guys vote. Watch the media when she's putting stuff on. Follow. We just throwing it all out there. You keep seeing our stuff. Don't get tired of us. Vote, because it's everything that we do collaboratively that's making it happen. Dr. Lady Rain is doing all kinds of things for those early risers. You guys get up and I think it's 5 a.m. our time or 5 a.m. Ansonia's time. I'm trying to remember. Our time. It's still early. Whatever it is, it's before Andrea is awake. So for those that she's doing in celebration of her birthday, she's every morning she's got prayer people coming on praying at 5 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, Arizona. Arizona, I apologize, does not honor daylight savings. So when everyone press forward, we stay put. And I hate it because this time of the year, I don't care that the sun rises early. I don't know. I don't get it either. But they do on the reservation in Navajo country, they honor daylight savings time. I'm not sure why the rest of Arizona does not. However, my daughter she sent us a text or something about, she says it's 7 a.m. Central Times, which means it's 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, that's right. So we're 3 hours. So my daughter said something about, I guess something's happening with daylight savings time next year. I forget what it is. So to get rid of it, or everybody go with it. I don't know why some places. Okay, I don't know why some opt in, some opt out. I don't get it. It's confusing. So at this time of the year, from March to November, Arizona is actually on Pacific Standard Time. So we're on the same time zone as LA. Most people know LA, Washington State, all of those West Coast states, West Oceanic states, I'll put it that way, that we are on the same time zone as they are. We're the only people, I think, in this that does not shift. So if you're up north, northern Arizona, then you shift. So having said that, we've got some awesome programs. we're praying for Ronnie. You guys continue to keep Ronnie in prayer. She's, that old devil think he's slick because she wants to do something in the community. So he launched an attack on her physical body, but we declare and decree that it's null and void. She will rise up and do the work of the Lord. And she's going to, y'all know Ronnie like food. So she's going to do this thing. So she's got her food truck program that she wants to do. She's got a GoFundMe for that. So we'll make sure you guys get that information. And on the couch with Shalonda and Nick, man, I'm telling you, they had me last week with my boy. I don't care what new music come out. I'm sorry for all the new artists. There's nobody like Pastor John P. Key. His music is timeless to me. He's my all-time favorite. I would have been in ICU last week. I was still going to watch it. So you guys, hi Ronnie, she's on here. Yes. She hopped on. Hey Ronnie. We're gonna have to have you come on and share. Yes, definitely share. I know you got your own show, but I like you to come on my show. That's what I do. So Shalonda, Nick on the couch, and they killing it every Thursday night at 7:30. Ronnie's gonna be back in her time slot, and anyone else who wants a show, you guys know what to do. Having said that, now I got the real professional on, the professional therapist on the line. That's Doc D. Come on in, Doc D. Salute the people. Tell people what God is doing in your life and your practice. Every day she posting some new thing God is doing. I can't keep up. I cannot keep up.
I don't think it's anything new this week thus far, but it's only Tuesday. So hey.
Every day is something new.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to come work for you in a minute.
Hey, I won't complain.
I mean, I don't know how you have enough hours in the day to keep up with all that. Like, for real?
That's what somebody asked. How do you keep up with it? I say, I don't. I just do it. I say, because if I think about it, then I get tired. And if I sit down too long, it's down here. That recliner almost held me hostage. I was like, Lord, 10:30. It's 9:47.
I know. And then
by
I was
9:50, I said, how much longer I got to go? Then I was like, I only got 30 minutes. Okay. So,
yeah, but if you close them eyes, man.
Yeah, I would not. That's what my intern was like, you gonna take a nap? I said, no, ma'am, because if I take a nap, they won't see me.
I guess I would have just been on the show. They would have been like, where's Doc D? She sleep. That's where she at. She's sleeping.
Right. So I try to do everything before I call it a night.
Well, you look beautiful. I don't know anybody who looks like this at 10:30 at night.
That's what I told Dr. Lady Rain. I was like, I'm a little puffy-eyed. I say, hopefully I don't look too swole up under the eyes. She was like, you okay? I said, I'm gonna take your word for it. She
got all that. She got them lips popping. It looks like it's the gloss for her tonight. So I'm just like, really? At 10:30 at night, this is what we do?
Hey. Well, see, my daughter has a cosmetics line, and she has a lip oil, and it gives you life. It only takes a little bit, and I'm like, okay, because most of the time I use Vaseline, but since she came out with the little lip oil, I keep it right here on my face, and it's my go-to, and it works. So,
well, you shining and glistering and looking all cute. That's at 10:30 at night.
At 10:30 at night. Well, thank you.
Must be nice. So you're not on call this week. What's been going on in the world of being an independent therapist with her own business and marriage? I'm like, okay, now she's got her marriage conference. I'm like, for real, Miss, I didn't want to get married. My husband made me a couple of weeks ago. So I think that's what we were supposed to be talking about tonight, I think. If not, you guys put in the chat and remind me what we were supposed to be talking about, because so many things that happened since the, every day is something. You getting honorary degrees, you getting degrees, you getting certifications. I mean, just stuff showing up in the mail. Hi, Sarah, Katrina. We got some more East Coasters coming on. I'm like, look at God. Look at God. Look at God. They on that East Coast time. She's in Maryland. So I'm like, wow, look at God.
Yeah.
So what's
So
going on?
the ultimate goal before the year is out to be full-time private practice, which that's been the goal, but I like to live in hesitation, and this is the year of no hesitation. So I got to get it done before the year is out. So was it last year? Maybe not last year, year before. I was like, okay, I need an increase in the practice so that I can walk away and do what I'm supposed to be doing or what I'm assigned to do full time.
Okay.
And even last year, when I was talking about leaving the crisis team or whatever, I was still taking the master coaching class. And Coach Michelle was like, no, that's part of your ministry right now. I was like, are you serious? Are you telling me I really can't lead a crisis team? Even though I had, another reason for not leaving at that moment in time. She was like, no, ma'am, they need you. I was like, oh, okay. So I will be obedient and stay in place. And I have thus far. Some days are better than others. And I think because it's not my time to leave yet, God has been putting things in place like less crises so that I will stay a little longer. Because last week, when I was on call, out of my whole 7 days, I had 3 calls. And that was in the last 2 days of my own call days. So I was like, thank you, Lord.
So can you share with the audience a little bit about the crisis team? I know what a crisis team is, but I don't assume other people do. So can you share a little bit about what that looks like and what we're talking about?
Okay, so in Georgia, they have what they call the Georgia Crisis Access Line. And anytime a person is in distress, whether it be suicide, homicide, active psychosis, they can actually call the crisis line and speak to a licensed clinician who in turns do a brief assessment where they tell me it's not brief, but I'm going to say a brief assessment to determine whether or not the mobile crisis team needs to be dispatched to them. And so what actually happens if they warrant it significant enough where we need to be dispatched, we will go to the location, whether it's the home, the hospital, the jail, the parking lot, the park, the hotel, wherever that crisis is, that's where the mobile crisis team is dispatched to. And typically there are 2 of us that go, in the community on the call. Unless it's the hospital or the jail, then there are 2 of us that go. And what typically takes place, if it's a child, we talk with the child, see what their thought process is, and if we deem them not safe to stay home and go to an outpatient facility the following day, then we recommend inpatient treatment. The difficult part about that is in the lovely city of Valdosta, there's only one facility that takes children, and they don't actually take children because they have to be 14. So anybody 14 and under has to leave the city. And the closest place was Donaldsonville, but when the pandemic happened, they closed down the adolescent part of that. So the closest thing now is Savannah. So anytime a child has to go into an inpatient setting, they either go to Savannah or Atlanta. But if it's an adult, we have Legacy Behavioral Health that has a crisis center here, and we can send them to the crisis center to be evaluated for inpatient treatment. And we have the option of Greenleaf if they have insurance. So if those 2 are full, typically we have to, make some other arrangements as well. So it gets a little tricky if they, require inpatient treatment. But if they don't, we can often recommend that they follow up with outpatient treatment the next day, and then we do a call to ensure that they did follow up.
So for the people that are on who have no idea what she's talking about as far as location is concerned, Savannah is probably what, 2.5 hour drive?
2.5 to 3 hours, depending on how fast a person drives. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And it's not like driving an I-10 either. So you're going through a lot of back roads and different ways to get to Savannah. So, and most people who know anything about, if you know anything about Georgia, Savannah is basically on the Atlantic Ocean. And if you know anything about the Florida Panhandle, Valdosta is about 80 something miles north of Tallahassee, Florida. So it's kind of close, like sort of, I guess you could say the central, literally Valdosta, one exit is Valdosta, Georgia. And I think the next exit is Florida. It's really that close to each other. So I think that's really sad that no one is thinking about the mental health of our children to the point where if a child is in crisis, the nearest place for them to find treatment is all the way a 3-hour drive. Imagine if you are a parent in a situation like that. Like, what do you do? Like, when you're going out on these type of calls, like what types of responses do you get from parents in this situation where you've got a child totally in crisis and there's really, I mean, I'm assuming that they could go to the hospital to be safe until they're able to transition care. That would be my assumption. However, what is your experience in that area? Like, what have you been seeing with parents?
So what typically happens if they're under, under the age of 14, and depending on the level of treatment they require, if they are 14, sometimes Greenleaf still won't take them. So we have to have them go to the ER and explain to the ER that we need a medical clearance for placement. And then the hospital will do all the lab work, and they may ask some brief questions as well, and then they will assist with what's called a 1013, which is the involuntary transportation order. And then the ambulance will transport that child to wherever the placement option is. So the parents don't get a chance to transport the child. The only way the parent get to be able to transport them is if the child is not on a 1013. And if they're not on a 1013, then they in turn have to call like the facility in Savannah and say, hey, I need my kid to be evaluated for placement. So then that's the only time they can actually drive them, say, to Savannah or Macon. Sometimes Macon is an option, but not too often.
No.
Yeah, so with some of the parents
facilities?
get a variety of parents. Some of them downplay it, and then some of them realize, hey, something is wrong with my child and they need some help that I can't give them.
Yeah, and that's a scary situation. I actually just started with an agency where I'm going to be seeing children and youth. It's a whole different world. And then if you have substance abuse on top of it, that's a whole nother dynamic. In rural South Georgia, which I guess Valdosta isn't as rural as it used to be, as it was 21 years ago when I lived there. I don't think it was even at complete metropolitan status at that point. I'm assuming now it is. I know it's grown.
It is, but nothing much has really changed. They just have the status, but nothing much has changed.
So there still really aren't very many services for mental health in the Valdosta, Georgia area.
No, because everything is still monopolized by behavioral health. You have some private providers outside of Legacy, but everybody's sharing like the same psychiatrist. So the same psychiatrist might work at all the agencies in addition to behavioral health or in addition to Greenleaf. So um, they're worn out, so they see these people for 15 minutes on telehealth, not really getting a real picture of what's going on. They give them medication that may or may not work or may cause additional problems, so they're still not getting the care that they need. Same thing, which is Thomasville is about an hour away, and they have Georgia Pine, which monopolizes everything that way. So pretty much you have two community mental health centers that are monopolizing everything. And that's where a lot of the grant money is going, because they put these programs in place, but they don't have adequate staff to, implement the programs that they're putting in place. So it's tricky.
It is very tricky. The whole mental health world is very tricky. And telehealth is great, which I actually love. But I'm glad you mentioned the part about psychiatrists, because the idea of for those of us that are old enough to remember the Bob Newhart show and different other shows from our younger days, whenever they would show psychiatrists, they'd always show someone laying on the couch kind of thing. Right, not realizing that most psychiatry is primarily medication management. It's not therapy. It's none of those things that we grew up, the idea of what we thought psychiatric care was. Either that, or it was more of your state hospital type of psychiatric care. So because of that, it's really challenging for people who may or may not have had any experience in trying to navigate the access to care process. It's pretty interesting. I mean, you have to be in a pretty bad spot to be able to get a bed anymore. So
right, and about 15 years ago, I think it was maybe about 15 years ago, if that long, they closed all the long-term care facilities because they said, people needed to be in the community. Think about it. Most everybody can't live in a community setting. So now you have all these mental health people just kind of roaming the streets. You have them homeless. You have them, living in these apartment settings. They're tearing up the apartments because they're hallucinating, or, they're using drugs in addition to the hallucinations. And so they're getting put out of apartments. They're a revolving door in the crisis facilities. So it's just chaos, total chaos. And when you try to get some services for them, we don't have that type of clientele here, or we can't house them here. And so then you got those that are getting out of prison with no place to go, even though they have the reentry programs in place. The reentry is not reentering them in a correct manner, so they end up back in prison. So it's just a revolving door of kind of hopelessness is what we coming in contact with.
Cool. So when we come back from the break, because it's break time, you guys, when we come back, I'd like for us to pick up with some more conversation about access to care and how this is affecting minority populations in particular in getting care. Because one of the things that I mentioned a few seconds ago was about private pay facilities. The stars, if someone needs treatment and you have money, they're not as concerned about a bed, because they have a whole different list of options. Private, for the people who live out in our area, you may be familiar with what Bermuda Ranch was, or the Meadows, or different ones. They don't take insurance. So that's a whole nother conversation. So we'll be back after the break, and I really want to pick your brain a little bit about that. Okay. And talking about how, mental health is affecting families, and in particular, people of color.
Okay. Sounds good.
So we'll be back in a few minutes. So you guys keep sharing. Hang out with us. We'll be right back.
Have you ever wanted to host your own inspirational radio show? Have you been called to inspire and spread God's word? Please contact Alicia Rain for more info.
Are you the next great independent artist? But you're looking for a distribution opportunity? Well, sign with us at PRAYzy Music Distribution. Yes, the 2021 Stellar Award nominated PRAYzy can handle it all. We understand the narrow road leading to getting your music heard at the right time at the right place can be tough. So send your music and video files to fmprayz@gmail.com. That's fmprayz@gmail.com. PRAYzy Music Distribution, affiliated with Sony Music and the Orchard Distributors.
We are back in the house on the Momentum Shift here with Doc D in the house, the professional therapist. She's all things therapy. She's talking about crisis management. We're talking about it all because she's got all these lives, y'all. This lady, I don't know how she live her life. She on calls, she's on this, she's on that, she's planning a conference. I'm gonna come out there for that conference. I'm gonna get there some kind of way. I'm gonna get to Valdosta. Come and see. Yeah, I want to get out there. Last time I was there was when my late bishop had passed away. I can't remember what year it was, but that's the last time I was in Valdosta. And Artist Singleton was on my show last week. He's a retired warden, and we were talking about the prison system. And you made us you inferred about the reentry programs not really being about reentry and how it's impacting people of color, because we know statistically people of color we're the minority populations, but unfortunately in the prison system we're probably more of the majority population.
Yes.
And in some prison systems more than any. And if you know a little history, and I am going to have artists come back on because there's some more we want to get into with that. Historically, most people in our communities, really, especially more of the younger people, don't really know how the whole prison system even started and why, and how it all became a part. I can tell you a little bit about history, and most people who know anything about Louisiana, unfortunately, knows about Angola. Angola's famous. Just like Sheriff Joe out here was the most famous sheriff in the land. So famous in that one of my friends here, well, actually, she's from Valdosta. I didn't meet her in Valdosta, but she's from Valdosta. And she's probably been one of my longest friends here. But her husband went to Korea right before they moved here. We moved here in 2001, and I think they came later that year. We moved in February, and they got here at the latter part of the year. Her husband knew about Sheriff Joe because they were talking about him. He's just that famous that he was making TV in Korea, in South Korea, because of the way he did. And he was sheriff here 20 some years. They finally voted him out. Cost in Maricopa County a fortune. The recidivism rate here was still high. It didn't matter what all he was implementing, but he had his own posse. He was kind of running his own show, his own program. Had more power than probably the governor in the state, unfortunately. But the sad part about this is prison, and I think Artist said this last week, it's not about rehabilitation. It's not about any of that. And prison is nothing, or jail, it's nothing. The average person is clueless about.
Oh, it's a moneymaker.
That's what he was talking about last week. It's an industry, and private prisons are popping up everywhere. And it's not what people think. So you think someone goes to prison that they're going to learn something that, and the people's lives do change. Don't get me wrong, their lives change. But I probably learned more from the season when I worked at the women's prison than probably any other professional experience I had, because that was the season when I learned that prison was nothing like people think it is.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference between prison and jail.
Yes.
And the average person lumps them together, and they're not the same.
Two totally different things. And then to make it even worse, Valdosta State Prison is considered a mental health prison. So the majority of the mental health patients in Georgia are placed at Valdosta State. Maybe 80 to 90% of the population at Valdosta State is mental health inmates. So that makes it even, more tasking, because you got criminal behavior and you got the mental health behavior on top of it. So sometimes you don't know which one weighs out, because is the mental health what manifested to land them here, or was it the criminal behavior? And now because of the criminal behavior and being locked behind the bars, did the mental health manifest after that? Or are you just playing crazy so that you can get out sooner? So it's all kind of components that that are tied to it, and you can look at the diagnosis and pretty much everybody has the same diagnosis. Everybody is taking the same medication, and then if they had a different medication prior to coming to prison that worked, they no longer get that medication because the state is not paying for that. Yet the state will pay for a transgender operation.
Yeah, that's a whole different show. As a matter of fact, yeah, that's a whole different show. We're not going to even get into that, because that itself will create a whole nother firestorm of
right. And so, because when I first heard of that, I was like, say when now? And they was like, they've had lawsuits where the inmates have won the lawsuits because they didn't get the accommodations because they were, transitioning. And so I was like, wow, okay. So, yeah.
The same. And it's interesting how things happen, even out in the media now, and I may get this all wrong because I haven't really been following it, but this whole thing about people not being able to say that they're gay. Mm-hmm. This is taking on a whole nother life form, and I'm not real sure what all this is about. Well, I am sure about what it's about. It's politics. However, some of the focus has just gotten really interesting lately in how far the legislature is planning to go now. And you wonder, like, okay, while we're focused on all of these things, which are important to the people that they're important to, there's always been gay people, though. There's always the Bible discussed it, so that tells you that it's always been around. The interesting part is the focus on it has shifted in such a direction, and you have to wonder why. Like, there's always stuff behind the scenes that we don't know, and a lot of times there's funding that we don't know anything about, just like you just talked about the whole transgender piece. Because lawsuits, I know this particular state, not in regards to that, but when I moved here, I started doing community mental health in February 2002. Well, there was a lawsuit, and I can't remember what the law, it was a couple, it was some families came together, sued the state of Arizona, and it was about mental health benefits. And because of that lawsuit governed everything that we did. For a specific amount of time, and I can't remember what it was about because it was so long ago, but it made it virtually impossible to provide the services because they won a lawsuit. And most people are not clear about how, I think we need to be educated on how a bill becomes a law again, because somewhere that got lost. It started getting lost around when Obama was, running for president. That's when things start going in the other direction. And then it really got crazy with it during his 8 years, and then after his 8 years, when his successor took office. It's like people became dumb to civics. Like we no longer understand how the process of government and how things get funded and how they don't get funded. And a simple thing is VA benefits. Lynette and I was having a conversation about that earlier, and how you even get classified. The average person assumes, oh, well, you're military. First of all, they make the wrong assumption that military people have money. Trust me, no one joins the military because they want to be rich. It's not going to happen. No one who works for the government is going to make a whole lot of money. Yes, there are some people who do well in the government. They promote and they do well. My sister's one of them. She's doing really well. She started working for the government, Hurricane Katrina. Was her beginning part, working with FEMA, and she's risen through the ranks, doing well. It's a lot of work though. It's not what people think. And so prison life is not what people think. Mental health world is certainly not what people think. It is a very exhausting. It can be rewarding, mentally draining as well. You have to do self-care. And so anyone who works in the helping professions, and that's whether you're pastoring, whether you are doing social work of any sort, you don't have to have the title of social work. If mental health, especially if you're working in mental health can be draining. A lot of therapists have therapists. The reason why is because you have to have you're listening to people's problems all day. You have to practice self-care. And no, every therapist don't need to be in a mental health facility. I know I got to a place at my job working at the hospital. I was like, in a minute, I'm gonna be in my own group. If I don't start taking care of myself. I was doing IOP, and I'm like, I'm gonna end up being a patient where I'm treating if we don't take care of ourselves. So we've been talking about the prison pipeline to prison, because there is the pipeline to prison. There's also there's family work to be done. Unless you've actually been engaged with someone in the prison population, you may confuse it with jail, which is not the same. And then the substance abuse piece, they're not sitting around watching Steve Harvey all day like people think. It's just not the way. And yeah, they may watch a little TV. However, the average inmate, and there's different levels, just like there's different levels of care out in the community, there's different levels of care when you're locked up as well. So I learned that when I was out at the women's prison, that if they didn't program, meaning they didn't go to school, they didn't work, they weren't a part of a special population where they were being provided with a certain element of treatment or education. They're locked up in their cell 23 hours a day. That is not healthy for anybody's mental health.
Then if somebody gets hurt or killed, they don't come out that other hour. They're in there until they decide that it's not going to be locked down anymore, whether that's 48 hours or whether it's 2 weeks. Sometimes longer than that, depending on the severity of, who got hurt, or if it was more than one person that got killed. And they would get killed for what we deem stupid stuff, but a pack of noodles, some cigarettes, a cell phone.
That's money. Yeah, that's big time money. And yeah, cigarettes worth more than money. In prison, right. It is money. It's currency.
The ramen noodles too.
Yeah, commissary. Putting some. We probably heard people talking about putting some money on somebody's books. That's what they're talking about, so that they can buy. Because I don't know about in Georgia, but I know here they have to pay for their medical care. It's just not free like people think. So they're paying for their meds. They're also paying for their commissary. They pay to see a doctor just like we pay to see a provider. A lot of them have child support or restitution. And when you're only making 70 some cent an hour is big money in prison. Some of these jobs pay 7 cent an hour, maybe a little more than that now, but 11 cent an hour. And, you know, and I know some of you guys like a few cents an hour. Well, yeah.
No, Georgia doesn't pay them. They don't.
So you don't even get paid at all.
Nope.
Well, that's if you have a job. Now,
well, they will have a job in the prison, because you got those that are cooking, you got those that are cleaning the offices and the buildings. You got those that are doing the barbering or the haircuts. None of them get paid.
Wow.
The state will pay for the medication, but of course, like I say, everybody has the same cookie cutter medication. The family has to put the money on the books for commissary, or either, you know, they do strange things for the commissary, or you get beat up for your commissary. So those are the one of three options. You either, you know, hey, your family put some money on your books, you're gonna turn tricks, as they say, or, you know, you're gonna fight and take somebody's stuff. But no, they don't get paid. The only way that they can actually make money is if they transition to a halfway house.
Wow. That's a whole nother show about the halfway houses. Because they're definitely not about treatment either. They're about people who own them are the ones that benefit from that system. So how there's so much. I'm like, wow, which direction do I even want to go with that? It's so much. When you're dealing with inmate populations, whether they are currently incarcerated or out, how are you finding that this is impacting? You know, I realize the job market is, you know, there's this thing out here where they can't get people to work, and, you know, and people are thinking, you know, it had something to do with the unemployment benefits. Well, those benefits went away a long time ago, and yet people still won't work. They have to be surviving some kind of way. So what are you finding in your practice? Are you finding that you're dealing with an increase of any particular type of issue, whether adults, women populate, whichever populations you're finding that are engaging in more services right now? What would you say that is?
Well, I see specifically teens and women, but there has been an increase in the women calling, and I see pretty much Black women, but they have been calling. When I'm saying I'm getting 3 to 4 calls a day, and it may be more than that, because I got a telephone line that I have not answered in weeks, and I feel bad, but I don't know to log in to get to it to check the voicemail. But on the number that I actually answer, and, you know, through my Psychology Today page, I'm getting at least 2 to 3 calls every day. And it's like, I you know, I can't see you for a month. You know, I got an intern. If you're willing to see the intern, I can get you in. If not, I got to refer you to somebody else, but then they're full. And so, you know, some of the voicemails are in sheer desperation. Look, I need some help. Everybody's full. And so, like today, I didn't get home until 8 o'clock because I had three or four new people that I saw today. Not in addition to my regular people. And then I think I saw 1 or 2 new people yesterday. And so there's an influx. And with the women that are coming to me is a increase in anxiety and depression. So that's what I'm seeing. But as a whole, what is kind of taking place in the community is because these people are homeless and they don't have an ID or a birth certificate. They're not able to find employment. They're wanting to work, but they can't get employment because they don't have the proper documentation. They can't get housing because they've got this background check that doesn't allow them to go into the shelter. So again, that puts them on the street. But then if you don't have an address, when you check in to probation, you're gonna get sent back to prison because you don't have an address. So it's like, one of those cycles where if you get caught in it, it spirals down instead of, pulling you up.
And and I'm glad you said that, because that's an area of education I think needs to happen as well. I know our homeless population has grown enormously. It's always been a pretty big size, but now there's parts of town where you didn't used to see a whole lot of homeless people, a lot of young homeless people. They're out everywhere, and it's really sad because I know Arizona has the highest inflation rate in the nation. Okay. The Phoenix metro area actually made CNN and World News Tonight about a month ago. Okay. And Drea actually came out here and interviewed a few people, and it's sad because most people are being priced out of places to live, because a place that might have cost, say, $600. This one lady they interviewed, she could be around our age, in our age bracket. She literally works like within walking distance to where she's living, but she doesn't know what she's going to do because she can't afford the gas. Our gas is so high, and ours isn't as bad as California. I really don't know how in the world anyone affords to live there. I've seen posts where they're charging $8 a gallon for gas. That is out of control. I filled my truck up the other day and it was $100, and I literally thought I had died. Never spent $100. I bet I won't let it get on E again. But it's just that was at Sam's. But it's just the idea of the cost of living has gotten so high. So now you have people who normally would not have been homeless and out on the streets. Now they're learning to live and survive in a whole nother culture. Mm-hmm. And that has to be affecting one's mental health. I couldn't imagine. I mean, you do what you have to do. People have always been homeless, no doubt, but the rate of homelessness and whole families, and right. There's just no placement, even in, Child Protective Services, you guys call it DFACS. There's no placement, foster care. There's no homes. There's just no beds. So with everything that's going on in the United States now financially, there's just lots of worry and concern, and it's affecting, which is probably what's increasing the rate of anxiety and depression and people calling, because the same thing is happening here. I would try to get people to schedule with their aftercare and whatnot when they were in IOP, and they couldn't find a therapist. They couldn't get an intake. Therapist looking out 3 months. That's a lot.
It is.
So now you guys are working overtime and trying to, in a minute, I guess you're going to need another intern, huh?
Well, right now I got 3. Didn't intend to have any, so I ended up with my first one because she said Bishop said, and I was like, Bishop, all right, sis, Bishop said I'm gonna have to take you. And so
this is your bishop.
No, it's her bishop, but he's one of my frat brothers, and so okay. I was like, Lord. And so then the second lady was like, I haven't been able to find anywhere, and I'm not going to graduate if I can't get an intern. I was like, been there, done that. So the 3 that I got ended up in scenarios where there were no other placements for them to go that would, take interns on. And it was like a crisis type situation with that as well, because they were trying to graduate and didn't have a internship. So I was like, hey, let me see what I can do to help. I was like, y'all know I don't want nobody over here with me, but yes, they have been godsends. I can say that they have. God do some things where he'd be like, I'm not doing it, and he was like, yes you are. And I was like, okay.
He has a way of doing that to you, doesn't he?
He does. And I told the lady today when she was sitting in the office, I say, obedience was my word last year. And I say, and from being obedient, I was able to receive some, exponential blessings, I say, and it's continuing to be obedience in 2022, in addition to no hesitation. So those are my 2 words for 2022, because I will hesitate before I do some stuff, and it hinders me because I'm like, I got to think about this, I got to process, and I might process for 3-4 months knowing that I'm going to come up with the same decision. And so I was like, okay, so no hesitation. But I'm still hesitating, but not as long. So instead of 3 months, it might just be a month.
So we're going to work on getting that down. We're going to work on increasing that time. So
I'm getting better.
Cool. So as a coping skill, and just really quick, Ronnie commented about, she said the homeless rate just in Phoenix is up by 58%.
Wow.
And 219%. Wait, I guess I need my glasses. 219% in the east side of Arizona, with families included due to housing. That is why she said, when the Lord heals her and gives her strength, she'll be downtown feeding families soon enough. Yeah, we're going to get down there, because this is, Carmen says, this is a show about prison. Hello, just trying to lighten the mood. No, it's not really about prison, but it's the reality. These are all the populations and how our mental health is being affected, because whether it's hitting us directly, it's hitting someone we know, one way or the other. And so, and people are getting therapy, whether they are scheduled with a therapist or not. They're getting it from their friends, So if you had to give a couple coping skills for someone who's maybe struggling with anxiety right now, what are your go-to coping skills before we go?
My go-to is lavender. I know people get sick of me talking about lavender, but I do lavender in my bath water, with children and adults as well. If you put lavender on the bottom of your feet, it decreases your anxiety and knocks you out like a newborn baby. I use peppermint. I use candles, scented candles. Certain candles can, alleviate your mood or take the tension out the room. Coloring books, crossword puzzles, journals, the nature music sounds, or the water sounds, things that just kind of take you out of that what is causing you anxiety in the moment, and just retrains your thought process for that moment, whether it be 5 minutes or whether it be 30 minutes, just finding something creative to do. I know when I get anxious, I'll craft, because I've got to focus on something in that moment. So I'll be like, okay, let me find something to craft right quick. There you go. And I'll find a craft that I can do in like 20-30 minutes, and then I'm fine after that, so I can move on to the next task. And so that helps as well.
Right now.
Mm-hmm.
My crafting / office. I got my Cricut on one desk, and I'll work on the other one. Making cups, all kinds of stuff. I see your stuff, and she's always got her little neat. I think I have one right here, as a matter of fact. Oh, sorry. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it.
That's what people say. You don't like to do t-shirts? No, because t-shirts might take me 5 or 10 minutes. I need something where my attention is focused, and you got to focus on putting all those little beads in the proper place for it to look right. So by the time I'm finished with the beads, my mood is changed, I'm calm, and I can move on to the next task or talk to the next person, that's going to need that extra attention. So
awesome. So this has been a lovely experience. I know we were talking about all kinds of different things, and it might seem random, but it's relative. It's relevant. Hey, Minnie on. Pastor Deborah hopped on after I did the shout outs. Carmen, Trina, Thank you all for coming on and watching and sharing. And Sonia's probably in bed now because she's up at dark 30. I'm asleep. She'll be on next week. She has a testimony she wants to share, so she'll be on next Tuesday night at 7:30. I like to keep it relevant and talk about how mental health is impacting everyday people. Because like I said, whether it's impacting you directly or someone it's just good information, because the average person has no idea what it's like to serve the mental health community, because realistically, you're serving them even when you go into Walmart and buy your groceries. You are serving the mental health population.
Even if you say, "Hey, how are you today?" When you ask that question, depending on how they are, you might get a whole dialogue. So yeah.
Exactly. So with that, thank you, Doc D. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're
put
welcome.
some rest on everything you're doing. Dr. Lady Rain, she's over here making it happen, she multitasking, y'all. One day I'm gonna get her in front of the camera though. I don't know when. She keep promising me, but we'll see. Carmen using her breathing techniques and her spray and you know what, her Bath and Body Works world. You gotta do what we gotta do. Everybody's different. You got to find your love language to you, whatever brings you down. For me, it's crafting, and it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to take a break too. You got to do what you got to do.
Yes.
Timeouts are not just for kids.
No, I told a lady today, sit in your car for 15, 20 minutes before you go in the house if you need to. Let that be your me time. Because once you go in the house, it's downhill from there. If you got those little people that's going to start saying, "Mommy."
And they do. They say, "Mommy, mommy, mommy." I'm not in mommy world anymore. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. So good night, you guys. Thank you, Doc D.
Welcome.
Keep us abreast of what's going on. Keep sharing. I'll be sharing all this good stuff you got. Maybe we'll all meet in Valdosta to one of your events. Who knows? Dr. Lady Rain be down there in Callahan, Florida. She sneaks up out of here all the time. But I never heard family. So she don't be that. She's not that far from where you are. So don't be surprised if you can just see her one of these days. She just show up. Never know where she might be. So on that note, you guys have a great night. Thank you, Doc D. In all her lives. Thank you for coming on. And we're going to get this mental health forum going. I'm going to figure out how we're going to do it. And we'll do it during the day when people are alert. Not at 10:30 at night.
Good.
Thank you. All right. Love you guys. And I'll see you next week. Have a great night.
All right. Good night.
You are tuned in to that PRAYzy station. PRAYZ.FM, where we get our praise on. 24